breaking news. He's got sugar-coated love. Yeah, sugar-coated love. He's a real guy, baby. Tell me, baby, he's mine. Well, you wanna know what sugar-coated love is? It's the best kind that they got. It's a kind of love that makes you feel young. The North Pole feeling. He's got sugar-coated love. Yeah, sugar-coated love. He's a real guy, baby. Tell me, baby, he's mine. He's a real guy, baby. Tell me, baby, he's mine. He's a real guy, baby. Tell me, maybe he's mine.
New York, New York, a wonderful town. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. The people ride in a hole in the ground. New York, New York, it's a wonderful town.
And now, it's time for Talkin New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network of programming. And here's your hosts, Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caliger, and it's time for Talking New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike. And speaking of Brooklyn Mike, he joins me right now. What's up, brother?
How are you, brother? You doing good this morning?
I'm doing okay. After a good night's sleep, like we were just talking. After a good night's sleep. In my feety pajamas? Yeah. No, but a busy day today. Of course, we got baseball playoffs we're going to be talking about. Kind of sum up the baseball season. I wanted to get your thoughts on some other stuff with baseball, like this one-game playoff, which it just kind of left me hanging. But I also got some quick hockey news to talk about, and, of course, lots and lots of football talk, specifically about our JETS, Jets. And, they used to say, I've been being hassled for being a Jet fan my whole life, and I used to get criticized, scarred for life, just end the season, Billy. That's what Jet stands for, and I'm like, oh, God, maybe we're starting to think that way right now. But first and foremost, let's talk real quick. We touched base on it before we went on the air. Lou Gehrig, who died of Lou Gehrig's disease. They actually named that long, fancy medical name for that after Lou Gehrig. Did you catch the report that they're trying to have them release the medical records because they want to see if there's any connection with some of the more recent studies they've done where head trauma, which we talked a little bit about last week, may be a cause for at least the beginning stages of Lou Gehrig's disease? Yeah,
well, the first thing is the disease is called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS. I figure I say the disease because I know you'd butcher it. So,
that's for sure.
Yeah, I did hear this, and you're saying that because Gehrig did suffer several concussions when he played football at Columbia University. So they're trying to see if there's any kind of link, and to see maybe if he didn't die of ALS. And the concussions really had something to do with his death. This is all obviously because of all the concussions that football and all the lawsuits that are going on, 2,400 lawsuits or whatever it is. So,
yeah, we lost you, Mike, man, and maybe that was a good thing because that connection was totally awful. All right, so we're going to try and get Mike back on here. And if this is beginning to look like it may be a restart the system type of a situation here, and that's exactly what it is looking like right now. So hang tight. We'll be getting Mike back on the line here. But I found that just talking about the Lou Gehrig thing. I find that kind of amazing. Yes, I know with the laws about protecting patients and what have you, from exactly this. But I wonder in this case. I wonder actually two things in this case. Number one, is it really a violation of a patient's rights when you're trying to help somebody else? I mean, is there something that needs to be in place from that patient or from that patient's family? Is it like the donor program? I mean, is it cut and dry? Should somebody have signed off on it, and that's the end of that? Or do we also look at the other part of this, which in my thought process is, you're talking about a pretty long time ago, and the question is what about the record keeping? They feel that that they're not going to really get anything from those records, that would indicate whether there was a connection or not. My question is exactly that. I mean, with the way the record keeping, the whole process of record keeping back then, is there an issue with that today? Do you think that the way that they kept records, back in Lou Gehrig's time, that would help or hurt what they're trying to find right now? I don't know, but. Anyway, I mean that's one of the issues that they're talking about right now. So, hockey season. That's right. We talked a little about the hockey season last week, and I guess it's not fair for me because I'm not a big hockey fan, so it's not really fair for me to talk negatively about hockey and what the impact is and everything else. But the one thing that Mikey and I both discussed was the fact that it's not as popular as football or baseball or even basketball. And, for these types of issues to happen, the holdouts and contract disagreements, disputes, what have you, is a lose-lose situation for all of us. Not only for the general sports fan or even the diehard hockey fan, but for everyone, every sports person. And now it was announced yesterday, I believe, or actually the day before, that they have already axed the regular season games. Now, we lost the preseason games as a result of the lockout, and now they're talking about losing the games through October 24th, which isn't a heck of a long way away. So they already cut now hockey games, NHL, through October 24th, which I guess that's substantial. I guess that's a substantial hit. I mean, the way I want to look at it anyway. I mean, it looks like the way. And speaking of looking that way, I think we got Mikey back. I just was about to hit the button and saw you. How you sounding now?
I hear you fine. Can you hear me just okay?
Now you are perfect. There was an issue before. Now I don't know if it was my end. Did you reboot or anything or?
No.
Okay, now I did.
I tried calling you back, and I finally saw that you were back online, and I got you.
Right. I just had to reset the whole system. So, okay, listen, I wrapped up that. I wrapped up the hockey. Let's talk about baseball. First and foremost, we both brushed on it a little bit last week. The Red Sox officially fired Bobby V. You and I talked a little about it last night. You said that you think that's the end of him in baseball, Major League Baseball. I'm kind of uptight about this whole thing. Number one, they only gave Bobby V 1 year. Number two, it reminds me so much, Mikey, of like a Bill Parcells style coach in the NFL, and why those kick in the ass coaches don't work anymore in football. It seems like it's the same in baseball now, and Bobby V is proof of that, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, but they wanted, when I say they, I mean the Red Sox management, they wanted somebody different than the way Terry Francona managed. Terry was, he was a player's coach. He coddled the players. He let them do what they wanted to do, and then, that finally bit him in the ass, 6 years into his managing career. So they wanted somebody different, so they go out and they get Bobby V, and after only 1 year, they fire the guy. Plus, they cleaned house at Boston, with all those players going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. I thought it was very unfair for Bobby. I mean, he's a very, very good manager. This team was, again, decimated with injuries. They had 27 different players go on the DL. I mean, it's like star players like Ellsbury, Ortiz, Crawford. I mean, these guys were on for an extended period of time.
Well, we just lost you. We just lost you again, Mikey. So I don't know if it's I don't know. Is that you back again? No. I apologize. We're having all kinds of difficulties, technical difficulties with Mikey right now, and I will see if he can't get a hold of him now, which it doesn't look like we can. So, not sure what's going on with Mikey right now. So we'll have to hang tight and give this a second, and just to talk more about the Bobby V situation. You can't give in my opinion, you can't have a manager for 1 year. 1 year doesn't make a manager in my opinion. A manager needs more than 1 year. And the thing is that are you back, Mikey?
I'm here.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. It's you should consider restarting your end because we keep dropping you here. But anyway, I don't think it's fair that they gave him 1 year and that was it. I wish, I tell you the truth, I wish Bobby V was with the Mets.
Yeah, so do I. I couldn't agree more. I don't know how much you got of what I was saying before, but I said it wasn't fair, and I agree with you. But 27 of these Boston Red Sox players on the DL this year, which I mean, every year they just seem to be decimated with injuries, and a lot of their star players for an extended period of time, like Ellsbury, Ortiz, and Crawford.
Dude, you're gonna have to restart your system. I can't take it. Restart your system and give us a shout back. All right.
Will do. Bye.
That's Brooklyn Mikey. We're having some phone issues, and hopefully we'll get these resolved. I mean, that is nerve-wracking. That drives me insane when I hear that. So hopefully we'll get him back up and running a little better. Just to talk more about Bobby V. When they hired him, they knew what they were getting. They knew what they were getting with Bobby Valentine. And the Red Sox. And like Mikey alluded to before, here's what they do. They turn around and they start cleaning house. That was an indication, at least in my opinion, that they were leaning towards that kick you in the ass style coach and all of that. And Mikey also pointed out something interesting about the injuries. That's something that wasn't really talked about as much, at least here in New York. I'm sure it was in Boston. But, you got the injury factor, you got the cleaning house factor, and then all of a sudden, you were underachiever and see you later. I don't know, man. I think that it was a little unfair, at least in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see what goes on with Bobby Valentine, and if Mikey's correct that Bobby V very well may be out of baseball now for good. It's a shame. He said that some of his coaches were stabbing him in the back, and the players were stabbing him in the back, and maybe he is. Maybe he's not as stable as I thought. I don't know. But when you look at the American League, and specifically Boston, finishing in last place, record of 69 wins, 93 losses. They closed the season 26 games out of first place. 26 games. I can't remember the last time you were saying that. Their last 10 games, they ended the season losing 5 in a row and going one win out of the last 10 games. I mean, you're not going to get any fans, Bobby V, doing that. That's for sure. You're not going to get any fans, finishing a season like that. I don't care how many injuries you got or anything else. But Boston finishes at the bottom of the heap in the American League East. When you look at the rest of the American League, really Seattle was a better team. The only other team that had a worse record than Boston was actually the Indians and the Twins. Were the only two teams in the AL that had a worse record. Are you back, my man?
I'm back, my man.
Yeah, we're still having issues, man. I don't know what kind of weather you have. We're having rainy weather, and if it keeps up,
so am I.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it, But anyway, I was just talking about, more about the Red Sox and how Bobby V. I mean, I'm all for him and everything else, but when you look at it, the last 10 games they went 1-9. They lost 5 in a row, including 3, season finale series against the Yankees. I mean, they could have won one game and really kind of. Save the season. I bet you they win they sweep the Yankees and maybe Bobby V keeps his job. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the team just gave up at that point. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear
okay.
you. I hear some of it.
I'm making sure. I'm saying I believe the team just gave up at that point. Playing the Yankees, he lost that clubhouse a long time ago.
Yeah. We're going to have to take a break. We're going to have to take a break, and I'm going to have to switch gears here to see if we can't salvage our sound right now. We're having some major issues that we're going to try to resolve right now. So bear with us, and we should be back in a couple of minutes. Mikey, if you can hear me, hang tight. We'll be right back.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Beat Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh? What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Rosselli Enterprises. Rosselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flowboys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Rosselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RosselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IBO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the #15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the #15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOboxing.com.
Across the alleyway, up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette, he's just a buttonette, coming at you on the count of 1.
And we're back. You're listening to Talkin' New York Sports with Billy C. and Brooklyn Mike. We've been having some technical difficulties, and hopefully, Mikey, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. Well, guess what? You're coming in way better, my man. So hopefully we can keep it that way. It's I don't know if it's my end, your end, a combination of both, or what. But yeah, we're having some funky weather here ourselves. So anyway, baseball season. Pros and cons. I mean, who finished? Without getting into the Mets, but who finished? Above your expectations, and who finished below your expectations?
Oh, you said without getting into the Mets?
Right.
I guess the first team I'd have to mention would be the Pirates, even though they kind of fell apart, the last half of the season. The first half they played well above expectations. Unfortunately, they did finish below 500, which is another losing season, which I believe is 19 or 20 in a row. And you really got to feel for those fans. But they did play well for 3/4 of the season. St. Louis, without Albert Pujols, everybody thought they would tank, and they didn't. Obviously, they made the playoffs and beat Atlanta last night, so they exceeded my expectations. Washington, I had a feeling they would do well this year. Didn't know they were going to be that good. Even after sitting out their best pitcher in September, they still managed a 98-64 record. They exceeded my expectations. The Miami the Marlins, yeah, they well below my expectations.
Oh, really?
After signing big free agents and getting Ozzie to manage the team. No one could have predicted that they'd finish in last place with a 69-93 record.
I agree with that one big time. I thought weren't they the favorite going in as the East winner? I mean, nobody. I mean, Washington was strong last year, but wasn't the Marlins the favorite kind of going in on some?
Yeah,
people?
they were one of the favorites along with Philadelphia, who also kind of tanked this year with a 500 record. So they had all those free agent signings, and like I said, Ozzie Guillen was the manager, and they had high hopes, big expectations in Miami, and they finished worse than the Mets. Go figure. The San Francisco Giants, with the pitching not being up to snuff as it was in previous years. Tim Lincecum not having a normal Tim Lincecum year, still managed to take first place by 8 games over the Dodgers. That kind of exceeded my expectations. Over in the American League, obviously Billy C's Oakland Athletics.
You're damn right.
I have to give kudos to my man. Unbelievable what they have done. You talk about Moneyball. The bullpen has been fantastic for that team.
And who are they?
The biggest surprise.
Who are they? You start to try to name some of the guys on on the team, and it's like, well, then again, I don't know anybody playing any position on that team. I certainly don't. I mean, I know they're scrappy and stuff, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't name more than a handful of players on that team.
Well, I agree, but after these playoffs, I believe that we'll know quite a few of those names, and they'll start becoming household names. They by far exceeded everybody's expectations. Nobody could have seen that coming. And you look at a team like Texas, who was, one strike away from winning a World Series, and they've been in it for the past 2 seasons. They've led the first place for 178 days, and all of a sudden they lose it on the last day to Oakland. I mean,
and the season's over.
That team is cursed.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the season's over. I mean, they got to be waking up this morning going, WTF, man? What's going on? What happened? Tell me this is a dream. And we're going to talk about the playoff teams in a second, and I think I want you to keep that unknown team in the back of your mind, because I think that's been a huge plus for the A's. And I agree with all the teams you said so far in the NL. The AL, obviously, I thought Boston would do a little better. I'm sure you did too. Baltimore, of course, shocked everybody. I mean, they really came out. I mean, even more so than the A's. I think that they came out of left field. Minnesota, Cleveland, Kansas City, all having really bad years, but that's nothing new. A couple of moves that they're talking about now. One thing caught my eye. Did you see before we get you mentioned the Phillies as being underachievers, but did you see that Curt Schilling might have to put the famous bloody sock on sale to pay off some of his debt?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. There was a ESPN, 30 for 30 called Broke that I happened to catch, and yeah, it's unbelievable. These guys, just how they blow their money. They just think those paychecks are going to keep coming in for the rest of their life, and that just amazes me. That and he'll make whatever he makes on the sock, and he'll still be in financial trouble. So and he's working consistently on the Major League Baseball channel. So I just can't imagine what kind of debts these guys have accumulated over the years, where they're making much more than you and I, yet they just seem to they exceed their limitations constantly. So
Mike,
yeah, I can't believe it. Curt Schilling, it's just it's amazing.
Mikey, he makes I could find more money in his couch than I make in a year. What are you kidding? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
No,
my point. Yeah,
it's crazy. The whole year was kind of a weird year for baseball, and sometimes it's good. I think sometimes I think it's good when you get a little mixture in there. Unfortunately for Major League Baseball, and this is something that the NFL has been able to stay away from. Major League Baseball, because there's no salary cap per se, the ratings drive the sport, and they want the same old teams in the playoffs, because Major League Baseball, those same old teams, the Yankees, all the big market teams, means extra revenue for Major League Baseball, and maybe they need to change that. The other thing is, look at some of these teams like the Twins. I'm going to use them as an example, and I know firsthand. I'm friendly with a really good friend of mine is involved with the Marlins organization, and they're the next ones we're going to hear about. But the Twins fired 6 of their coaches and staff. The Marlins are going to be doing the same. And you look at these teams and you say to yourself, is it really fair to fire these managers? Was it fair to fire 6 guys from the Twins when you look at their roster? Is it fair to, fire Bobby Valentine because of a performance of a team that, you were trying to clean house with anyway? I mean, what's your thoughts?
No, it's never fair to fire the managers and coaches, but you know as well as I do, when a team underachieves so badly that somebody has to take the hit, and you can't fire the talent. You're not going to fire the guy that hits 300 one year, then he hits 214 the next year. Maybe you try to trade him and stuff, but it always seems to come down to the managers, because they always say, oh, the manager lost the clubhouse, he lost connection with the team, we got to get rid of him, we got to get somebody else, we got to try to stir the pot. So no, of course it's not fair, but they're the ones that have to take the hit, because you can't just fire the whole team. It's impossible. When you talk about the Boston Red Sox, not only did they fire Bobby V, but they did clean house quite a bit, getting rid of a ton of salary with Crawford and Beckett and Gonzalez. So they went both routes. They fired quite a bit of their talent. Obviously not the whole team, but quite a bit. And don't forget that they let Youkilis go earlier in the year, and that just started, that just got the ball rolling with Bobby and then the bad blood within the clubhouse.
Well, sometimes teams do need to clean house. I mean, the Red Sox weren't having a good year last year either, so I wasn't that uptight with the cleaning of the house. I thought that was a move to stand behind Bobby Valentine, and I thought that they would, try to get some personnel that would fit into the game plan that Bobby V presents, that type of mentality, and it looked like they were, but I guess the fans really drove that bus. I have to think that the fans drove that bus. What do you think?
Well, it doesn't make sense, because once they started to clean the house, and you and I discussed this, we said that we thought that Bobby would be there for at least next year. You got to give the guy at least 2 years, and to get players that are willing to work under him. And you talked about last year how the team underachieved, and what did they do? They fired Terry Francona. Again, the manager took the hit. But after I saw during the year how they got rid of a lot of these superstars and a lot of this salary, I thought for sure that Bobby V would get another shot. But they just cleaned house from top to bottom in Boston, which really didn't make sense to me. And I don't know if we had some phone difficulties before, if you got what I said, but I thought it was unfair to Bobby. Not only did they not let him pick his coaching staff, he was given these coaches. Also, the team, again, was decimated with injuries. And I'm talking like all-star players like Ellsbury and Ortiz and Crawford that were out for a significant number of days. So Bobby was in a no-win situation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because those same coaches, all he claims, were stabbing him in the back. The players were stabbing him in the back. I don't know, man. Maybe it was a Band-Aid just to have a scapegoat. Maybe that was their plan all along. But anyway, as we talk about baseball season, excuse me. Obviously, we got the playoffs all set now. Now the one thing is we had this wild card, and the wild card, everybody was all jacked up because they added the extra team and everything else. But I'm not so sure I like that one-game series. What do you think?
I was watching it last night. I went out to dinner probably when you were sleeping and counting sheep.
What was it, around 5 o'clock? What was it, around 5 p.m.?
I didn't like it. I didn't feel the intensity. I didn't feel the excitement, like you do with a Game 5 or a Game 7. I just, I felt that these guys are just kind of given it's like a raw deal here. You win, and now your pitching staff is all messed up. So, yeah, you're in the playoffs, but it doesn't give you, a good shot of competing with these teams that, have already won their division. They're already set with their lineups and their pitching staff, and now you have to kind of use your words, put a Band-Aid on and try to fix it, and now match up against these teams that didn't have to have the one-game playoffs. So I wasn't crazy about it. And then after watching last night's game, I don't know if you saw the highlights with the Atlanta Cardinal game, but that ended in that was a very controversial game because of the infield fly call, or that was in my estimation a terrible call. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
No, I didn't. Was it an infield fly, or was it out of the infield?
It was 50 feet into the outfield.
Oh my God, I would have flipped too.
Yeah, it was terrible. We thought that I wasn't rooting for the Braves, but I just wanted to see a good game. And at that point, you figured because the ball dropped, the shortstop ran out. He was never under the ball, and it just dropped. He had his hand out, calling off the outfielder, and then all of a sudden he dropped his hand and stopped, which we were under the impression that the outfielder said, I got it, and called him off, and the ball dropped between the two. It was at least 50 feet into the outfield, plus the fact that the umpire called it late. Usually with an infield fly rule, you got men on base. If it's popped up and it's obviously in the infield, it's called immediately. And this was called after the ball was dropped.
Oh, that's terrible.
Or after the ball landed. It was just a terrible call. And I'm not saying that the Braves would have won the game. They had more than enough chances to win the game. They committed 3 errors. They played a terrible game. But that you never know. You never know. Again, it could have been bases loaded with 1 out, and they were down by 3 runs. So, again, very controversial, very bad. It didn't help, with this new system having the one-game playoff. I don't agree with it. It's all about money, as you know, bro. It's let's have it. One extra game. We'll make more money, and that's what it's about. It's not about getting that extra team in. I like the old days when you win your division and that's it. You play the division winners. That's it.
Yep. And people didn't like the 5-game series. They didn't like the best out of 5, and I was shocked to see there was only a 1-game series. I mean, even especially with baseball, even a 3-game series would have been better. It's just and like with Texas, of course, first of all, let me just say this. I can't stand either team, the Braves or the St. Louis Cardinals. So, but like you, I don't want to see a game end like that, and I feel for the Braves. But then again, we could always, put a Met or Jet hat on and say, hey, the game shouldn't come down to one play. I mean, you should be beating your opponent regardless of the sport you're in, and not let a referee or a umpire, make the decision. I was going to say, I said referee because I was thinking boxing, but the Orioles. We were talking about the Texas Rangers and how dominant they were in their division, really for the last 3 years. And this morning must be them thinking that they're waking up from a bad dream. I mean, here they lose to my boys. They lose the division. They find themselves in a one-game wild card, and they play another Cinderella team, for all intent purposes, that shouldn't even have finished with a 500 record, and they lose. The Orioles not only beat them, they beat them soundly, 5-1. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers just seem to be cursed. I was saying earlier before the phone kicked out that this team was one strike away from winning a World Series last year, and then they've been in 2 years in a row and had leads and blown them, and now being in first place for 178 days and losing it on the last day of the season, it just seems to be getting worse and worse. Now they're going to lose Josh Hamilton. He's been there for the last 5 seasons. They couldn't work out a deal during the year to extend his contract. He says that, still the Rangers are going to get first shot, but I can tell you right now, Josh Hamilton will not be on the Texas Rangers next year. Last night he was 0 for 4. Adrian Beltre was 0 for 4. They just couldn't get it going. The bats were just not there last night. 2-8 in the last 10 games. Again, they just fell apart. Maybe they have to make a change with manager. Maybe they have to get rid of Ron Washington and get somebody else in there. Who knows? Like I said, we can't fire the talent, but this team just seems to be cursed, and they're playing. They would play with a team that's been hot. I mean, who's been hotter than the Baltimore Orioles in the last month of the season?
No, with the exception of those last couple of games, they kind of fell on their face. But the team that has been hot all season long is the Reds. We'll talk about them in a second. It's a team in the NL. So the way the AL shapes up right now is you got the Orioles going to play the Yankees. Or actually, the Yankees are going to play the Orioles in Baltimore 2 games and then come back Yankee Stadium for the next 3. And I had the misfortune of listening to Boomer and Carlton for a little while last week, and Carlton is just such a Yankee fan. It makes me sick, and he's saying as a Yankee fan that he was much rather that he would much rather face the Orioles than the Rangers, and you can understand why in terms of bats and stuff like that, and of course the history of last year. But the Orioles are a scrappy team, and I don't know. I don't know if he should be happy that he got what he wished for.
I agree. I mean, on paper, you rather play the Orioles. You look at Texas and how they stand up to the Yankees on paper. Yeah, that's the team that you should be fearful of. But Baltimore plays the Yankees, 18 times a year. They know this team backwards and forwards. And don't forget, you're comparing Ron Washington to Buck Showalter. Okay, I mean, Buck Showalter has taken teams and made them better throughout his career. This team, the Yankees and the Orioles, have split their series this year. This is the team that I would be worried about. And I would not be surprised if they beat the Yankees. Yankees got their problems. Teixeira has played only 4 games in the last 27 days. A-Rod is not the A-Rod of old. He's got no power, or he's not hitting for power whatsoever. Jeter just seems to defy odds. At 38 years old, batting .316, it's unbelievable. And Cano's been the hottest player on the planet the last few weeks of the season. But that being said, this team, the Orioles, if I was a Yankee fan, they would scare me the most right now because they're fearless. They're fearless. They have no fear of the Yankees. And it's the Yankees kind of remind me sometimes of a young Mike Tyson. You know, you step into that ring, which is Yankee Stadium, and you see those Bronx Bombers across the way, and you're in Yankee Stadium and the history, and the other team just kind of wilts, and like, oh my God, it's like facing Mike Tyson. But you know what? It's not that way with the Orioles. It's like the Orioles are looking at Mike Tyson like Lennox Lewis looked at Mike Tyson.
No, come on. Do we have to go? Lennox Lewis. I mean, I'll give you Buster Douglas looking at Mike Tyson, but Lennox Lewis, come on, he was already done after that. But you know,
exactly,
you're right. You're right. The Orioles have played all year with that we got nothing to lose, that fearless attitude, and I like them. I like the teams. You know, the teams that are in the playoffs right now, with the exception of the Yankees and the Cardinals, actually, that I can't stand both of those teams. I like them all. You know, they're all good. Now, as far as the Yankees playing the Orioles and the A's playing the Tigers got in. I mean, they listen, at the All-Star break, I think they weren't even in the middle of the pack in the Central. So, you know, they've been playing hot baseball as well. You know, I agree with you about the Yankees and the Orioles. I disagree with some of the Yankee fans who think that the Orioles are going to be an easier out. You know, the Yankees are hitting well now. All of their players are hitting. The whole team is hitting well. The question is going to be the pitching. Now, we talked about Andy Pettitte before. You know, he had a lot of rest because of the injury. He is a clutch pitcher and all these things. You know, but there's got to be some uneasiness with the Yankees playing the Orioles at this point, knowing and agreeing with, and I'm assuming that they agree with, similar to what you said, that this is a team that you can't put any fear into them.
No, you can't. You can't. I mean, this team is almost like a team of destiny. I mean, last night they pitched Saunders against the Rangers, and Saunders, his last 6 previous starts at Ranger Ballpark, he had a 9.38 ERA. I mean, and he goes out there and he pitches, you know, excellent game into the 6th inning. It's almost like I said, like a team of destiny. And you're talking about the pitching. You know, we mentioned this before that the Baltimore pitchers have given up more runs than the team has scored. Yet they always find a way to win. And what they've led the league in this year is winning 1-run games. That's something that's that's scary to a team. You know, because when it gets down to the nitty gritty, to the clutch time, you know, they seem to come out on top, and they were the best in Major League Baseball this year.
Talk about a team of destiny. It has to be the Athletics. I really believe so. Not just that I said it way back when, but I love the team. They're playing the Tigers, another hot team. That's probably going to be the series, although my predictions when we talk about in a little bit is going to set up some good games. But I think that the Tigers and the A's are going to be a good one. But, you know, I'm going to come back to something I threw up on the table before, and I was asking you about the names, the people, the players of that athletic team. And, you know, it's hard to name them. And sometimes in baseball, and we noticed it a little bit with the Mets this year in the beginning of the season with Neuenhuis and some of the young players like that, when, you know, you don't have a book on these guys, when you don't have the statistics and you don't have the spray charts and you don't have all of the data that they use to know how to position their outfield and what kind of pitches to pitch and all these things, you know, it makes the game a lot harder, and it also makes these young pitchers look better when they're pitching, or the young hitters when they're, you know, facing these pitchers for the first time. You know, I mean, do you think that, you know, I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, that went okay, you can use that for the first half of the season, but now, you know, the second half of the season, these teams have played them, they've seen these guys, the stats are out, and they're still doing it. Is it going to carry through the playoffs for the A's?
You know, it might. It might. I think with the A's, what it's going to come down to, which has been consistent throughout the year, is their bullpen. That's been the biggest surprise with the Athletics. I think that is going to be the key to their victory. I'm actually thinking they're going to beat the Tigers, because of that strong bullpen. They have enough, like you call them, scrappy hitters to drive runs in, but it's that bullpen that has carried them throughout the season. As far as knowing other teams, it always helps. It always helps, and that's why I think with the Orioles and the Yankees, same thing. They play each other 18 times during the year. I think that definitely has something to do with it.
Well, the A's go up against their top pitcher in Verlander in the first game, which is going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. And what did Oakland do? They're putting a decent pitcher in, but aren't they going with a rookie? Isn't he a rookie, Parker?
Yeah, he is. But you know what? Look, rookies have surprised before in playoff games. Beckett was a rookie way back when he was with the Marlins, and look how he did in the playoffs. It's just the opposite with Detroit. Detroit's got solid starting pitching with Verlander, Fister, Sanchez, Scherzer. Their starting pitching has been excellent. In September they have a 2.46 ERA combined for starting pitchers. It's their bullpen that's been a disaster for them. So it's just the opposite with the A's. The A's have capable starting pitching, but if the A's starting pitchers can get them to the 5th, 6th inning, that bullpen has been fantastic, and that'll carry them. So it's going to be an interesting series. It's either it's Detroit starting pitchers going deep, or it's the A's starting pitchers at least getting them deep enough where the bullpen can take over.
Well, you look at those two teams. They both won 8 of their last 10 games. Both the Detroit Tigers and the Oakland A's. I mean, remarkable. Talk about hot streak. And you look over at on the NL, and it wasn't so much. You got Washington winning 6 out of 10. Cincinnati going 500. They won 5 out of 5. San Francisco going 500, winning 5 out of 5. I mean, I don't know what's better. I've always liked going on, coming into games on a win streak. And speaking of NL, we got Washington going up against those lucky Cardinals. They were lucky last year. They got into the playoffs luckily. They won it all luckily, in my opinion. Is it going to be another run for them?
Like I said, after they lost Albert Pujols to free agency, everybody thought this team would just fold and crumble. And, they did just the opposite. Now you got a guy, I'm going to mention a name, and you're going to tell me who's that. Who's Alan Craig? Well, Alan Craig filled in for Beckman as the Berkman, I should say, for the first baseman. When Berkman went down, because Berkman was the replacement for Pujols, this guy, all he did was bat .307, 22 home runs, and 92 runs, despite missing the first 6 weeks of the season. So it's like they lost nothing at first base. They lost Pujols, but no big deal. We'll fill that gap. And Mike Matheny he's done a great job. I guess he learned a lot playing under Tony La Russa, and he just did a fantastic job this year. It's just they just play good fundamental baseball. They just, like Tony La Russa used to do, like he used to teach his team, and just play the basic fundamentals and you'll do well. And they do. They don't make a lot of errors. They're not a power hitting team, but they do have some pop in the lineup. And their pitching has always been decent. The last 10 seasons they've always had decent pitching. So they're a team that if they're in the World Series, there are people going to say, oh, how did they get there again? And then if they're in the World Series, other people are going to say, you know what? Hey, it's St. Louis. They're just a quality, well-managed team. That's the bottom line. So, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they make it.
I think you hit it on the head, and I agree with that philosophy. Fundamentals. I mean, in all sports, fundamentals. I think when you get to the pro level and then to the elite pro level, fundamentals somehow and sometimes gets lost in the shuffle. And I think you hit it on the head with the Cardinals. They are a fundamental team. They play for the first out. The plays at first. Same thing you're telling kids in Little League. Okay, Johnny, plays at first. And that fundamental. First batter up, no outs, plays at first. If you follow that, I think it's a safe bet. Washington is I think there's a lot of pressure on Washington, especially pulling their top pitcher and doing all of that happy stuff, still finishing strong. I think the telescope, so to speak, is on these guys, or the, what am I looking at? What's the word I'm looking at? Camera, whatever. The focal point.
Microscope.
Yeah, microscope. Yeah.
They're under the microscope. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Microscope, telescope, whatever. The magnifying glass. Right. But I think that people are waiting for them to fail. I know I am. I'm waiting for them to fail so that I could say, "What the hell? Why'd you bench your best pitcher?"
That's exactly it. You hit the nail right on the head. And if they win the World Series, they're going to look like geniuses.
They are.
We won the World Series and
we saved our
best pitcher.
Yeah, they're gonna. I'll tell you what. If they do, you got to give them credit because they definitely went against the grain.
Absolutely. But you know what? And if you know as well as I do, if they don't, and if it comes down to a Game 5 or to a Game 7 in the playoffs or the World Series, and at that spot would have been Steven Strasburg's spot, and instead they have to pitch somebody else, and maybe it's not Gonzalez because he's already pitched the night before. So if they lose that game, they'll be scrutinized forever. They'll say, "Oh, remember when Washington?" And yeah, exactly. Because you never promised a tomorrow.
Right.
You don't know if they're going to, make the playoffs next year. Yeah, they had a great season. Does that mean they're going to do it again next year? You don't know. They could get injuries next year. Bryce Harper could go there. You don't know.
Rule number one.
Play for today. Play for today.
Exactly, and that's rule number one. And coaching philosophies in any level of sports, you win today's game first. But and then finally the last two teams in the playoffs here for the NL. The San Francisco Giants, who quietly won the division. It was a race for a little while between them and the Dodgers. They're like, in my opinion, the most boring team in the playoffs right now. And they're playing another team that, to me, falls in line with those A's and the Tigers and the Orioles. A scrappy team that's quietly done it well all year long in the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah. And they've done it with Joey Votto, who's on his way to another MVP year. He went out with a torn meniscus and he got that repaired and he came back early September, and he lost his power for some reason. He was still hitting well. He was hitting like over 300, but he didn't hit a home run for the rest of the season. So hopefully, if you're a Reds fan, you got to hope that Joey gets his power back. I mean, because that's the guy that carries his team. There's no doubt, But the pitching has been great for Cincinnati. Both starting and relief pitching has been consistent throughout the year. And that being said, they should do okay. I think most people have them as favorites to actually get into the World Series out of the 4 teams remaining in the NL.
Well, that brings me to my next question. How do you see who's going to be in the NL championship? I mean, the division series. What 2 teams are going to make it to the division series?
You know what? I'm going to go with St. Louis beating Washington, and maybe I'm going, with a little bit of my heart here. I'm not a St. Louis fan, and I just want to see the repercussions if St. Louis beats Washington and find out what they have to say about sitting Strasburg, and they're gonna back that and say, listen, we made the right decision. We still had a good quality team. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. So I think that team, that fundamentally sound baseball team that we call St. Louis Cardinals is gonna take Washington, and I think that the Reds are going to beat San Francisco. I see Lincecum having trouble in the playoffs. He hasn't played well, or he hasn't been Tim Lincecum-like all year. And I just think that they're going to overcome San Fran. I think they have, as far as the hitting and the pitching, they're a little bit more consistent on both ends. You said San Francisco quietly won the West, which they did because the Dodgers did everything in their power to try to win by getting all these free agent players and trades, and they couldn't do it. But they find a way to win San Francisco. But I think it's going to be Cincinnati and St. Louis battling it out to get into the World Series.
Well, I got it half the same. I'm taking the Reds. I like Cincinnati, but I think Washington is going to beat the Cardinals. I think they're a better team. Yes, I 100% agree with you, and I kind of want to see what they're going to say, but I think that they're a better team. They do have the hitting on that team. I just don't think the Cardinals are good. I felt the same way last year. And we all saw what happened there. I don't like the Cardinals. I don't like, truthfully, I don't like anything from St. Louis, and from the whole state, as a matter of fact. But the truth of the matter is, I just don't think that the Cardinals, out of all the teams that are in the playoffs, I know this is going to sound stupid because obviously they made it in on the merit of their team, but I think out of all the teams, they're the least likely team or the least deserving team to be in the playoffs. I think that the Reds are going to play Washington for the National League Championship Series. Now, as far as the American League Championship Series, or I should say Divisional Series, who do you think is going to win that?
Well, you got the Yankees versus the Orioles, and like I said, these teams split, this year, 9 games apiece. However, the Yankees dominated the first half of the season, and the Orioles dominated the second half. And I think that trend, that hot streak that they've been on, is just going to carry over. I think they're in the Yankees' head right now. I think they're under their skin, they're in their heads, and they're concerned about it. You talked about the Yankees hitting well. Some of their guys are hitting well, but some of the guys like Teixeira and A-Rod, who you count on in the playoffs, are not hitting well. You mentioned the pitching. Kuroda and CeCe have to be on their game. Hughes has to be big. And I kind of like the O's. And again, maybe I'm saying this with my heart, but it's been proven. They've proven they can beat this team. So it's not like it's a crazy long shot. And the Yankees, listen, they have folded in playoffs. It's not like they win every year and they make it to the World Series. Of course, they lose just like anybody else. But they're expected to win. That's the thing. I don't expect them to win here. I think this scrappy bunch of guys with Buck Showalter at the helm is gonna overtake the Yankees. The other series, we got the Oakland Athletics, or the Billy C. Oakland Athletics versus the Detroit Tigers. It's basically starting pitching versus relief pitching, a scrappy team versus a power hitting team. And we got Detroit with Fielder and the Triple Crown winner Cabrera. You kind of got to favor Detroit here. I don't think that their bullpen is going to blow every game that they get into, and I think their starting pitching is phenomenal. So I'm kind of, I'm favoring Detroit, but my heart goes with the A's. So I'm picking the O's and the Detroit Tigers to battle it out to see who goes to the World Series.
Well, I, of course, am picking the two teams I've been behind all year to get into the American League Finals, and that's the Oakland Athletics against the Baltimore Orioles. I think the A's have played solid baseball. They were hanging around all year. The first half of the year, they were just hanging around. They really made, obviously, the push that we're all talking about and everybody's so shocked about here at the last couple of weeks. But the Orioles have been at the top of their game all year long. I don't think it's a second half only with the Orioles. I think, that they were there from the beginning. Everybody, including yourself, thought that, around the All-Star break, figured, well, now it's time for the Orioles to slow down. Now it's time for them to, hey, it was a great first half of the season. Now they're going to come back to reality. And they didn't fold, and they stayed strong. And I have faith in these guys, and I think that the A's and the Orioles are going to make one of the most exciting championship games for the American League that we've gotten to see in a long time. The unfortunate part of it is that it's the O's and the A's, and the ratings are probably not going to be as high once the Yankees get popped out, which I agree with you. The ratings are going to probably go down. But like you, I have one in each. I have the A's and the O's. You have the A's and Tigers. Let's see. In the National League.
No, I have the Orioles. and the Tigers.
Oh, right. You have the Orioles and the Tigers, right?
Right.
And
I have St. Louis and Cincinnati, and you have Washington and Cincinnati.
Right. You have the Reds. All right. So, who do you got it, man? Who's gonna win it? Who's gonna be in the World Series?
I think it's going to be Detroit and Cincinnati.
Detroit
in the World Series. Yeah. I think that's when the O's magical run is going to end, when they face Detroit.
And who wins?
I'm a big Leland fan. I've always loved him as a coach, and I kind of a little soft spot in my heart for that guy, and I kind of want him to get one more before he goes out. So I'm going with Detroit and Cincinnati to make it to the World Series.
And who's winning it all?
I'm going to go with Detroit. Again, soft spot in my heart for Jimmy Leland. The team definitely has power, average, starting pitching. The only weak spot has been the bullpen. But if the starters can go deep, take them 8 innings, even maybe get a complete game, Verlander, Scherzer, if they get complete game here and there, there's no reason why this team can't win it all.
Well, I'm going against you. I'm picking the A's and the Reds in the World Series, and I think it's going to be very exciting. It's going to remind us of the old days of baseball. We're going to have exciting championships, and then of course the World Series. And I'm picking the A's. I think it is a team of destiny. I think that when a team defies the odds like this, and this is why I'm not wouldn't be so surprised if Washington gets in as well. I just think that it's time. Although I like the Reds too. I like both the teams, and I'm hoping that the A's and Reds play in the World Series, and I'm picking the A's to win it all. So there's our picks. And as we wrap up talking about baseball, and obviously we're going to wrap this up for a little while, in the offseason, we're both Mets fans. I think the Yankees are going to stay on course, what they always do. As far as the Mets are concerned, we've talked a lot about this. We get jacked up over this. It's not crazy to think that the Mets need to make a decision, Mikey. Either they rebuild from top to bottom, or they continue with what they're calling as a youth movement, except do it all the way. Don't sprinkle in, a couple of guys here and there and say you have all the ingredients to have a winning team. If we're going to go youth movement, if we're going to save a few bucks, let's go all out. Let's take our farm system. Let's see what we got with it. And I know you're going to disagree with this last statement, but I think they need a better manager. As a matter of fact, I think they need better management. I think they need better GM and a better manager. I know they're not going anywhere, but I certainly would like to see Bobby V back in New York.
Wow, Bobby V back in New York. I can't see the Mets making that decision. I can't see them, pulling the trigger and bringing him back, especially after what happened in Boston. Even though we both agree, all the blame is not on Bobby V, and we both like him. I still think they believe in Terry Collins. He hasn't done anything, to make this team play this lousy. This team plays this lousy because A, injuries, and B,
they're that lousy.
Have a lot of talent.
They're right, exactly.
And that's not his fault. You play the cards that you're dealt, and he's not being dealt 4 aces. He's getting a 2 and a 7 and a 9, and what do I do with this hand?
Go for a flush.
Go for a flush. Listen,
wouldn't you?
Sandy Olson has already said that this team is basically going to be non-competitive, next year.
And how smart is he?
They're going to hope they're competitive, and then they're going to try this and try that. But you know what? It's going to be the same old thing in 2013, and they better try to lock up, David Wright and R.A. Dickey. And if they don't do it next year, and these two guys get to free agency, they will not sign back up with the New York Mets.
How smart is Sandy when he's telling all the fans? I mean, here they're having the worst financial year in the history of the team, And, he tells all the fans expect nothing different next year. I mean, what's he doing to ticket sales? What's he doing to gate and everything else? Which, incidentally, Major League Baseball in a whole was up big time this year on live attendance. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't. I'm kind of surprised. But that's a good thing.
Yeah, it was up almost 2%. I mean, considering the average was up 2%. It averaged this year, all 30 teams averaged almost 31,000 fans per game, which is.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry to cut you off, but you know what you have to contribute that to is teams like the O's and the A's and Washington. Teams like that bringing in fans. It's not your typical New York and L.A. and what we usually are accustomed to seeing. It's these smaller market teams that played well throughout the year, and fans came back to the ballpark. So, I mean, that's what I attribute the increase to.
Yeah, well, maybe it couldn't have been for the bargain low prices of beers and pretzels and hot dogs at the games, because that's ridiculous. But anyway, just to close out the Mets, and thank God it's over. I don't even want to think about the New York Mets. I really, I love R.A. Dickey. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be a Met for the rest of his career. It makes the most sense for him. I don't think he's a pitcher that's going to be in high demand despite his numbers and despite his wins and all of that, just like we talked about with awards and stuff like that. I mean, it's just they put an asterisk next to him. Is it fair? No. And I think it's the Mets' advantage. As far as what's his face, third baseman, I say get rid of David Wright. I say try and trade him now. Try and replace him, get some younger talent, maybe get some pitching in there. David Wright, it does nothing for the Mets. He really doesn't, in my opinion. I don't even know if he's that big of a fanfare. I don't know how many fans actually love him. I say let him go. I don't think he's that good, Mikey. I really don't. I don't think he's that good.
Well, I mean, he's not that good. What? His average, his power? I mean, he's a consistent player. I mean, he's an all-star player. I mean, you got to give him that. It's not like he's batting .214. He's a .300 hitter. I mean, I think when you say you don't think he's that good, I think you look at David Wright. I'm going to try to get a boxing analogy here. The way you look at Andre Ward. You look at Andre Ward, he just keeps winning. He keeps doing well, but he doesn't have, as you say, it. And I think David Wright doesn't have it. He's not that leader, that attraction that we want to see as our face of the franchise. And I agree, he's not that. But he still does things well, and he does them to the point where he's voted into all-star games every year because he does them well.
I think that's the media. I think that's the perception when the fans, which is the people who vote for baseball all-stars, from other places, are putting David Wright, and he's the name they hear. I guess the Andre Ward thing with me isn't that, because I think he's number one pound for pound right now. I think he's got all the talent. I think David Wright is overrated, whereas Andre Ward is underrated in boxing. So listen, I think I see, if it were me and you're strapped for cash and you're trying to build a team, I say get rid of him and get what you can for him. Maybe get a 3-player trade for him. And try and get 3 quality ball players, and go the rebuilding route. I mean, I don't know. I just think for them to focus on keeping David Wright and look at him as a pillar, and which obviously they do. Where's the other pillars? I mean, you need more than one pillar to build a building. You need at least 4. And who's the other guys? I'd much rather take and get a young group of guys in there and build that team the way we thought they were going to when they got David Wright and Reyes in there. And, you started to see the pillars of the team, and you're saying, okay, good, they got a good young infield. When Reyes and Wright were there, we all thought as Met fans that we just solidified that corner of the infield for 10 years, we figured. We all thought it, you know. And 4 years later, Reyes is gone. Now, fifth year, we're talking about giving up David Wright. So that whole cornerstone of our infield is gone. You know, so why try to build it with one piece of that puzzle? Shake them out, man. You know, call for all new cards.
So let me ask you a question. What do you want to see happen? Do you want to start the season without David Wright? They trade him during the offseason, try to get somebody better? Or he is under contract. He's on the team contract. It was a team option, 15, 16 million, whatever it was. Do you want to see him start the season and play all these farm players as you've been saying and see what happens? How do you want to start the season?
I say let's go for broke now. Bring in the youth movement. You already had our GM telling the world that he's not going to spend any money and expect what you got this year. You know, so I say go all out. Get rid of David Wright before the season starts. Get rid of that whole worry. Don't worry about performance. Don't worry about is he shopping around? Is he interviewing for jobs? Basically, I don't mean physically. I mean, showcasing his talent for another team on the field. You know, does it all become about him? Is he going to be individual numbers? You know what? Get rid of him. He's the last big name on the team, theoretically. And we, keep R.A. Dickey. You need him. Put your focus on him. Get rid of David Wright. Get some youth in there and get some talented players. We have Tejada. Tejada's a good player. I'd rather see Reyes, but Tejada's a good player. We have other decent players in our farm system. Bring them up. Bring that whole class of pitchers up. Let's see who shakes down and who stays. And, hey, maybe you sneak up on somebody. Maybe you get one of those wild card spots next year. Who knows?
Well, they do want to bring those pitches up, but as they've been saying, they're not quite ready. They want to
come
wait.
On.
2014 is Sandy's year. That's what he's saying. He's throwing that number out. That year, 2014, is the year that you're going to start seeing his team, and you're going to see improvements and that youth movement, and with the pitching that we have, And as far as David Wright goes, as well as I do, he's under contract, and he's going to start the season with the Mets. Whether or not they can't, work out an extension with this guy, which I don't think they will be able to, then they have to go the route of trading him before the end of the year, not making the same mistake they did with Jose Reyes and letting him go to free agency and getting nothing for him. So, yeah, if I'm going to lose Wright, you better do it the right way, no pun intended, and trade him and get something this time and not just lose him to free agency.
No, I say get rid of him now. Let's get all of the discussions off. Trade him. I agree with you. Let him sign a gazillion-dollar deal somewhere else. But anyway, as you mentioned 2014, I wanted to kick something. Let's talk some football. I had brought this up a few weeks back about the USFL. And it is the original USFL that came in existence in 1983. It actually had the rights to the USFL, the United States Football League, and this new USFL bought the rights to it. And they originally were going to start the season 2013. It was a spring league, just like the original one. But now it was announced that they are going to kick off the season in 2014. And I find it interesting. It almost seems they're getting a lot of ex-players in here. I know Marshall Faulk is one of the guys involved. And, I just think they're going to have a 14-game season and all this stuff. I like it, and I'm going to keep an eye on it and keep everybody posted on that. One other thing I wanted to mention before we get into Jets and Giants is, did you hear that Titans, they're calling it Titans Hit Talk. It's with Gary, their defensive coordinator from the Tennessee Titans, Jerry Gray, was making some comments to his team, and I guess somebody snitched, and now the NFL is reviewing that. Have you caught any of that?
No, what kind of comments?
Well, he said that what he's being criticized for is, he says that he wants his players to not worry about fines or anything about that. He says if you're worrying about that, you're not going to go out and try and blow the guy up. is what he was reported as saying to his defense on Thursday. He says great football players have to put that out of their mind. You have to say, this is my territory between these numbers, and if you throw that football into my area, you better bring the Gator truck, and that's how you're going to have to play. You can't play timid in the NFL. And, because of those statements, the NFL now is looking into this, and they're trying to classify this as bounties. What do you think?
That is so ridiculous.
It is.
That's not bounty. Bounty is, listen, I want you to go out there. I want you to cheap shot the guy. I want you to step on his ankle when he's down, and hopefully it's going to be over somebody else's ankle so it'll snap in half. That's a bounty. I mean, he's just telling his guys to be more motivated and not so – don't worry so much about, because, listen, they throw that flag so frequently and so easy now every time that helmet touches the other helmet. And a lot of times it's not the defensive guy's fault. So this is far from bounty. No, this guy, what Jerry Gray is just doing is trying to motivate his team. That's it. That's all he's doing.
Well, he's a former defensive back that used to play with that tenacity and also with that mindset. And he's been quoted as saying that he feels that the NFL, their willingness to fine the players has influenced the way the game is played, but more importantly, the mentality of his players. He says that he's getting a little pissed off with the fact that, it seems that his players, he's only referring to his players, are not controlling the middle of the field with clean, tough hits. And he's upset. He says that he thinks that the 49ers and the Steelers and the Ravens, they do continue to play like that, and he wants his team to play with that tenacity. And I agree with him, man. I think football is getting a little crazy.
Yeah, I agree exactly, 100%. You and I don't always agree on things, so I agree 100%. There's nothing wrong with what he said, and they're just being overly cautious. They're under the microscope because of the concussions and the lawsuits, and so every little thing that they hear, a team saying and talking about being physical, now they have their ear to every team. It's ridiculous. I mean, it does ruin the game. I'm not saying go out there and headhunt, but my God, I mean, what happened to tackling that we knew about, 10, 20 years ago? I mean, it's gone. I mean, and you're so worried about it that you'll do more arm tackling, and you'll lose guys that way. And I mean, listen, he's upset. This Titans team is on pace to give up over 600 points this year. They're just not stopping anybody. They're giving up almost 38 points a game. So, I mean, he's got to do what he has to do and say what he has to say. And as far as I'm concerned, he said nothing wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. We're all, baseball and football, it's a game of statistics. And I think that a lot of people put a lot of emphasis in the stats. And sometimes the stats mean nothing, sort of like Thursday night's football game. The Rams beat up on the Cardinals, which incidentally was a shocker in itself. The Cardinals were undefeated, and now there's only 2 undefeated teams left in the Atlanta Falcons and of course, the Houston Texans, who play our boys on Monday night. And likewise, there's only 2 teams that are that haven't had a win, and that's the Browns and the Saints, believe it or not. But when you look at Thursday night's game, Mikey, one of the things that sticks out to me are the stats. And the stats were all one-sided, and the score was one-sided as well, 17-3. Except the difference is the stats were all in the favor of the Cardinals. Amazing if you look at the stats of this game. Total first downs for St. Louis, 12. Arizona Cardinals, 20. Total yardage, 282 versus the Cardinals. The Rams had 242. The rushing yardage was the only stat that was in favor of St. Louis. Every other stat was all in favor of the Cardinals, which amazes the hell out of me. and to have that team lose. The most impressive stat that didn't come to fruition was the time of possession, almost 10 minutes more for the Arizona Cardinals at 34 minutes and 22 seconds versus 25 minutes and 38 seconds for the Rams. What do you think?
Well, usually when the stats are one-sided, you're thinking, oh, okay, well, Arizona won, but yeah,
exactly.
No, it's a surprise. It's also a little bit of luck of where the ball bounces, and the stat that stands out to me, yeah, you talked about all those stats, but what we didn't talk about is the 9 sacks that St. Louis had. They were all over Cobb in that game. Yeah, so you can go up and down the field, but if you don't go up far enough the field to at least get a field goal, right. Yeah. So it happens, but it doesn't happen often, and it happened in that game. But St. Louis's defense, I tell you, Jeff Fisher's got that team playing really well, considering like you got a guy like Bradford who's just not playing, Bradford like football like he did his first season. I've always liked Jeff Fisher. I wanted him when the Jets were looking for a head coach, believe it or not. But he's got that team playing well. I mean, they're 3-2, and they're exceeding expectations, no doubt.
Well, Rex Ryan, we'll talk a little about the Jets right now. We'll probably finish the show with Jet talk, but Rex Ryan has I think he's already lost the team. Talk about statistics. The Jets overall ranked right now in passing yards as offense, 27th. I mean, it goes to show. In rushing yards, the ground and pound team that everybody's blaming the quarterback on is 24th in the league. Here's the defensive stats. The opposing teams, the Jets rank 31st in stopping the opposing team's rushing attack, which is something that they better deal with for Monday night's game. But here's the stat that is the most misleading of them all. The Jets' defense is ranked 4th against the pass. And, the way I was just saying that stats sometimes don't mean anything, that number 4, that top 5 ranking in the NFL against the pass, you know why it's so high, Mikey?
Yeah, because everybody's running on them.
Exactly, because they rank 31st in rushing. Why do you have to pass? You don't have to pass. I mean, that is a statistic that jumps out at me, and I say to myself, if I'm ranked number 10 in rushing and number 4 in passing, I'm feeling good. If I'm ranked number 15 in rushing and I'm ranked number 4 in passing defense, I'm feeling good. But I'm ranked number 31 in rushing and number 4 in passing. That's not making me feel good.
Exactly. I mean, and the last game obviously was against San Francisco. Alex Smith is no Eli Manning.
Come on,
I did that
man.
on purpose.
Come on.
But yeah, I mean, Alex Smith was off. He missed a lot of open receivers that game, and again, they were rushing. They're running the ball, and if you're effective running, the ball and taking time off the clock and you're moving the chains, what are you going to pass for? So yeah, it is deceiving. It's ridiculous. And also the first 2 games we had Revis in there, or 2.5 games, and so that does help keep that number at where it was at number 4. But then you lose Revis and San Francisco runs all over the place, so that number kind of stays the same. But it like you said, it's deceiving.
Yeah, well, we're in trouble, and we play the Jets play the Texans Monday night. The way the matchup goes, believe it or not, the Jets are, the funny thing about the Jets is right now they're in first place. Or if the season ended today, they'd win the division because they have a 2-0 divisional record, and just the way the matchups, just the way everything falls in place for the Jets. But unfortunately, the season doesn't end today. They're going against one of the only 2 undefeated teams in Houston Texans. That happens to be your pick for the Super Bowl. They got a lot of stuff going against them here. The Texans are averaging 14 points a game that they allow. The Jets are averaging almost 30, 27.3. Listen, are the Jets going to be able to stop Foster? I mean, here's a guy that's already almost got 400 yards in the season. He's averaging about 100 yards a game. Do you think they're going to be able to stop him?
What gives me any indication that the Jets are going to stop Arian Foster, who's basically the best running back in pro football right now. This guy, like you said, is over 400 yards. He's got 5 TDs for the season. And then, you got to also worry about Schaub. This guy's, he's already got 1,000 yards and 7 TDs. So all around, I don't see how they're going to stop either the passing attack if they decide to pass, because I think the running attack is going to be so strong. So I can't see. I had a friend of mine text me, and he's like, "Why is Houston only favored by 7.5 points? That should be the spread for the first 4 minutes of the game."
It's up to 8. But what about how they're going to do against Johnson? Johnson's he's got 2 touchdowns already. He's averaging almost 17 yards a carry. And the Jets, their best corner's down. They got a Smurf replacing him. When you got the guy replacing your best corner who's shorter than your best corner who's only 5'8", it makes you wonder about that. Are they going to put enough pressure on Schwab to shut down Johnson?
No, because the Jets don't put pressure on quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Unless they
blitzing everybody.
All kinds of schemes. They blitz. So there's nobody on the team it's a pure rusher, a pure pass rusher. So then how are they going to get pressure on the guy? And then what they're going to do with Andre Johnson is they're going to put Cromartie on him. And what they're hoping is that Cromartie gets really physical with them at the line of scrimmage. But as we all know, Cromartie's not a physical cornerback. So, he's been watching tapes of Revis. He's been doing it. It's still going to come down to actually doing it on the field. So I don't see it. You know what? There are times when I get to a point, and I think I've said this to you, where even though I'm a fan of a team, there are times I get to a point where I get so angry and I get so frustrated, I want to see them fail. I want to see them fail miserably because they try to, smoke screen us with, oh, no, we believe in this team, we have talent, we have this, we have that. I want to see them fail so miserably because now they're on the national stage. This is Monday Night Football. I have no confidence that they're going to win this game. There's nothing that tells me that they're even going to stay close to this team. Now, I could be totally wrong, and all of a sudden a miracle, and then they play the team really close, lose by a point, or maybe even win by a point. But I don't see it. And if they, like I said, you get to the point where, what are you going to tell me now? You just lost 34-0 to San Francisco. You just got killed by Houston. Are you still? When Rex Ryan tells me that this is the best, group of players that he's coached since he's been here, how are you trying to fool Jet fans? It's ridiculous, the statements I hear. And you're right. He has lost control of his team already. Definitely.
I hate to say it, but. I don't think we're going to see him much longer. I really don't. And we look at Sanchez. They're already talking about it's time to put Tebow in. Listen, man. Sanchez had a bad day last week. There's no question about it. He's got 4 interceptions already on the year. He's got the lowest completion ratio, completion percentage in the NFL at under 50%. There's no question that he's struggling. But you know what? I've been crying about this since before the season. I'm going to cry a little more. You can't blame it on Sanchez when the man has virtually now last week there was some times when he threw a really crappy pass and he had the protection. So I'm not saying it's all the Lions' fault, but a lot of it is the Lions' fault, and a lot of it is the lack of running game and the lack of blocking up front. And the other part of it is he's got no receivers, and it's going to be worse this week. His 2 best receivers on this team, one guy, Holmes, is gone for the season, and Hill, last I know, he didn't practice. I think he's going to play, but he's not practicing. We can't rely on a guy that doesn't even hold on to the ball. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the season, Mikey, that they got rid of all of his comfort, all of his security blankets in a lot of key players, and now everybody's pointing a finger on him to him. And when you put Tebow in, which is inevitable, it's going to happen, Tebow's going to be faced with the same problem. He's not going to be a quarterback that's going to run the ball. You're going to snap it to Tebow and he's going to run. Because let's face it, he's not exactly a speedster. I've been noticing him running the last game, and he's kind of slow. Who's he going to throw it to? He can't hit the side of a building anyway, but who's he going to throw it to? Who's he going to hand it off to? Is the line going to all of a sudden start blocking for him? And if that's the case, then you know that it was a team that went against Sanchez and not Sanchez.
Right. Listen, it is inevitable that they're going to put Tebow in just to shake things up. The thing that Tebow does have is the legs. Now, right, he is not a speedster. And why is he not a speed? Well, he's slower this year than last year.
And wait a minute,
he put on 15 pounds of muscle.
I know.
He's heavier.
He's big. He is. He should be a tight end. Let me just tell you this. But he's got the legs. He doesn't have the legs. He's got the power legs, and he can run forward. But Sanchez was a fantastic scrambler. The first thing they told him to do is not to scramble. They have him standing in the pocket, which he does. You got to give Sanchez credit. He stands in that pocket, and a lot of times, when the ball's knocked out of his hands or when he's sacked or something, it's because he's putting all his faith in that line that just fails him every time. And I can't see that line blocking for Tebow any better. The question is going to be, can Tebow make something happen, whereas Sanchez can't?
That's what they want to see, if he can make something happen. Like you said, he's not going to pass the ball better.
He can't.
I mean, even Sanchez right now, I mean, he's at 49% completion. That's still better than Tebow's career percentage.
But percentages today, you look at Tebow, he's got 100%.
Come on, wait for one pass.
One pass. It was one
career,
pass.
He's almost at 40. He's like at 45, 46%, which is and Sanchez has never been this terrible.
No.
But you know what? And as well as I do, I'm not a big Sanchez supporter. I think they overrated him when they moved up to 5th to get him. That being said, everything that you read in the papers, nobody is putting all the blame on Sanchez.
They are. They are putting it on him.
Not when you read the papers. I mean, everybody knows. There's no, everybody knows the line stinks. Everybody knows there's no Sean Green, really? Nobody's writing, in the papers, Sean Green is a great back and the line is great. No, they're not writing that.
No, but they put the blame on Sanchez. They definitely are.
He gets more of the blame, yes, but listen, I agree. It's not all him. I know it's not. As much as I don't care for the guy, I have to blame the line. I have to blame the lack of running ability in the backfield. I have to blame them taking away his receivers. I have to blame, he's got nobody to throw to now. Look, bottom line is, bro, they set this guy up to fail. If you look at it, they just set him up to fail. Why they did that, I don't know. I just can't figure it out. They give him an extension, but they set him up to fail. Tannenbaum has given him no talent around him. None. And what do? You bring in Tebow to add controversy.
You're right.
It just it makes it. I try to figure it out. I really do. And I talk to not only you, but I talk to other friends of mine that are big Jet fans. We can't put it into words. We don't know why they make these moves. Why did you set him up to fail, yet you gave him a 4-year extension?
Because it's the Jets organization. They've done. Tannenbaum is one of the problems, man. I
think he's the problem. I think it starts with Mike Tannenbaum and his inability to get talent on the team. I think his inability to evaluate talent.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yes.
Rex Ryan can't evaluate it either. He obviously, he's. Remember the defensive lineman? They mentioned his name once last week that we drafted in the first round last year. He's still not on the field. Why is it that the Jets draft their big blue chip players in the first and second round, and it takes 3 years before we get to see them on the field? And you see these other impact players that get drafted by other teams making an immediate impact, regardless of the position, whether they're a glory position, running back, quarterback, receiver, or whether they're a grunt position like a lineman or something. Why do other teams draft high and put those guys in immediately, and the Jets draft high and develop? we're seeing, maybe Copels will be in more. They said last week he wasn't. They're saying maybe this week. And the other guy, I can't pronounce his name. I forgot all about him, our number 1 draft pick from last year. I thought he was injured or something. They just don't have him in the lineup.
Oh, Muhammad Wilkerson?
Yeah, Muhammad Wilkerson.
Right.
He's just not in the lineup. I mean, I don't get it. You got these guys, Pu'ua, and nothing against them or anything, and some of these other guys that are, on the defensive line, they're not getting the job done. Are our number 1 picks that bad? Are they that afraid to expose these guys and what Tattlebaum and Rex Ryan are bringing to this team? Because let's face it, these last 3 years' worth of draft picks can solely be put on the blame of Rex Ryan and Mike Tattlebaum.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me think about what you said about the Mets. Is that put these players in? Let's see what
do you got to lose?
We know we're not going to the Super Bowl this year.
We're not going to the Super Bowl.
We know that. So,
listen,
so put these players in. Let's see what we got. And you talk about evaluating talent. Look at Jerry Reese with the Giants. They get Jason Pierre-Paul. Everybody said, "Oh, he's raw. He's raw." But you know what? They played him. They played him his first rookie season, and he gave you like 9 sacks. Are you kidding me?
Dude, what about even Peyton Manning? When he came into the league, he played his rookie season. He got killed. I think that was the year they didn't win a game, or they might have won one game.
They won one game. Same thing with Troy Aikman. Aikman won one game his rookie season.
Right. They put him in. Granted, Sanchez came in early because of an injury. Everybody thought Sanchez was going to be the man because, let's face it, the guy had, he got the team to the playoffs and but they had a supporting cast. Now they're putting too much pressure. They removed that supporting cast, and it's all on Sanchez. And, by the way, the defense hasn't improved. Yes, we had a shutdown corner before the injury, but they didn't go into the other areas. You can't put together defensive games and defensive schemes where, you rely on blitz packages because of your corners. What happened to trying to get a front four? We constantly compare the Giants' front four that has been solid for the last 20 years. Why can that team pick the right personnel not only to start as their front four, but to give their starting front four breathers and not miss a beat when they got the second and third string guy in there, and their linebackers are dropping into pass coverage, and they don't need that superstar corner, shutdown corner. I'm not saying a superstar shutdown corner isn't great to have, but when you get an injury and you have no depth, like the Jets are facing right now it shows how weak your defense really is.
Right. See, the thing is that the Jets rely on a shutdown corner because they don't have the talent to rush the quarterback. That's the problem.
Yeah, well,
that's the problem.
It's terrible. It's been the problem. We talked about it last week. The New York Sack Exchange was the last one. Just one last thing I'm going to talk about, and then we'll get into the games this week and do our predictions. The Jets have 4 receivers on the roster right now due to injury and everything else. 4. Stephen Hill, which is our rookie, he's still a little questionable. He's still nursing somewhat of a hamstring injury. Right. So he's, if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. They shouldn't even play him, because if they rip that worse, we're going to lose him. The next 3 guys, we've heard of Jeremy Curley. He's caught 2 touchdowns already this year. And, so he's been on the field. And Chaz Schillens, who came over from the Raiders, he's been on this field. But I've yet to see, maybe he's made some catches, I don't know, but I've yet to see our other guy who I didn't even hear of, Clyde Gates. Tell me about him. Tell me about our receiver, Clyde Gates, Mikey.
I can't tell you about
Exactly. He's our other guy. He's our other guy. Yeah, and we're going to blame Mark Sanchez when you got guys like our starting 4 receivers right now. Forget Holmes, because Holmes was listen, you know what? I hate to say this, and I don't want to, sound religious or I'm preaching one thing or another, but, there's things that are lining up for a guy like Tebow right now. All of these noisemakers, all of these anti-guys, the bad guys in the locker room, they're all dropping. They're all dropping like flies. And I hate to say it because I don't want to blame Sanchez because I honestly don't believe it's his fault. Not that I think he's a great quarterback or anything. I think he's too short and everything else. But you know what? This team, just the way the everything's lining up, is going to end up being Tebow's team, and he's going to be surrounded by guys that buy into his beliefs, and you watch, they're going to make a difference. Not that Tebow's better, but something's going to click. That's what I think may happen.
Well, if anything clicks for the positive, then they're going to keep him in there. I mean, the Jets are basically the Jets, have treated Mark Sanchez the way that the Yankees treated Jabba Chamberlain. They basically ruined him. They're ruining this kid. They tell you one thing, but they do something else. Oh, he gives us the best chance to win. Okay, why does he drive 20, 30, 40 yards, and all of a sudden you pull him out? If you're having an effective drive, why do you pull him out to put Tebow in? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense.
Believe me, I hear you. Well, listen, let's do some picks. We got some football picks right now as we're winding it up here. We'll go through these fairly quick because as we're running out of time already, we had some problems with the system here in the beginning, but we've been finishing strong. Speaking of picks, we're going into week 5, and man, did I kick your ass last week. 5 different games. According to my records, I won them all. I'm going into this week up 6 games on you, Mike, and I think this first game you might get a chance to pick one up right now. I'm going with the underdog. Atlanta's playing Washington. I like Washington. I'm high on Washington. I think that their offense is clicking. I love RG3. I know you do too. But, I just think it's time. They got the right coach in there. They got a decent running back. I don't know where he finds these running backs all the time. I think the defense is coming around. I think they're going to hand Atlanta their first loss. Who do you like?
Oh, I like the Falcons in this all the way. The Falcons, this team, obviously is one of the 2 undefeated teams. They've struggled at home this year, yet they flourished on the road. The Skins secondary is the worst in the league. I think their 2 receivers, Roddy White and Julio Jones, are going to have a field day, not to mention the tight end Tony Gonzalez, the best quarterback in the league right now, which is Matty Ice, Matt Ryan. I don't see them having any problems with the Skins. And their defense has been surprisingly good this year. That was their big question mark. We knew the offense was going to flourish in Atlanta, but their defense has been surprisingly good. I'm taking the Falcons, and I think I finally got one on you this time.
Well, the next game is another one you may pick one up on me. Pittsburgh is quietly maybe the best team in football right now, and they're going to be home against the Eagles. Who do you like in that one?
I actually like the Eagles. Even though Vic has only thrown 4 TD passes and 6 interceptions, they seem to find a way to win. LaShawn McCoy is definitely coming into his own. He hasn't really gotten into the end zone so far this year, so it's just like 1 TD as opposed to 17 that he had last year. But he kind of wears teams down. Pittsburgh's run defense isn't the same. I like the Eagles this one.
Well, I guess you're not going to pick one up on me because I like the Eagles too. I think Michael Vick is going to come into his own. I love Michael Vick. I really do. I just think this might be the week. I think their defense. I think the Eagles' defense is going to pick it up a little bit, and I think they're going to hand Pittsburgh a loss in Pittsburgh. So we're agreement on that one. The next game is the Green Bay Packers against the Indianapolis Colts. Packers. I told you that the Packers weren't going to have the same year, but I'm picking the Packers over the Colts in this one. Who do you like?
This is where I probably ruin my one game that I have on you this week. I'm going with the Colts as my upset of the week. I just think that, like you said, the Packers aren't the same. It's just one of those games that they destroyed. I shouldn't say destroyed. They played well against the Saints, and they won last week. I think it's a letdown game for the Packers. I think they're going to go into Indianapolis. I think Andrew Luck's going to have a decent game against their pass defense. I like the Colts in an upset. I'm going with the Colts.
Well, I wish you talk about letdown games, you talk about upsets, and this next game, the Giants against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are one of my sleeper teams. I thought they were going to do good. Obviously I'm striking out with the Browns, but I can't see the Giants having a letdown game because they lost the last game, and there is no letdown game until you come after a big win. reluctantly, as much as I love the Browns, and I love the running back on that team, I just had a lot of hopes for the Cleveland Browns. It ain't starting this weekend, unfortunately. I know it tastes terrible, but I got to pick the Giants over the Browns.
Yeah, I can't see the Giants losing this game. Another team with a terrible secondary is the Browns, and I think Eli is going to have a field day, even though their top receiver, Akeem Nicks, is out. Dominic Hickson is more than capable, and he has shown that he has plenty of chemistry with Eli. And I think he's going to have a very, very good game because people have been double covering Victor Cruz, after his breakout season last year. So even if Victor Cruz draws double coverage, I think Hickson is going to play well. The tight end Bennett has more touchdown catches this year for the Giants, and he has had his whole career in Dallas. Him and Eli are definitely that's probably one of the best tight ends that Eli's had in the past couple of years. I'm going with the Giants all the way in this game.
Yeah. Next game, the Vikings are surprising everybody, and I think they're not going to surprise us because they're the favorite. But I'm picking the Vikings to beat Tennessee. I don't have much to say. Tennessee's in trouble.
Yeah, Tennessee is definitely in trouble, and I mentioned before this team is on pace to give up over 600 points this year, which will be an NFL record. They're averaging about almost 38 points a game. They've given up 151 so far in 4 games. The Vikings are, they have a capable quarterback in Christian Ponder. He doesn't have big numbers, but he does throw. He got a high percentage completion at 70%, and they still have AP, who's been exceeding expectations after coming back from that knee surgery. I like the Vikings this one as well.
The next game is Cincinnati Bengals are going to be hosting the Miami Dolphins. It's actually a tough game because I think the Dolphins are better than their record, but something's up with Cincy, and I think I'm picking the Bengals over the Dolphins.
Yeah, I am as well. I think the Miami defense is pretty solid against the run, but I think that the Bengals are going to go pass happy here with Dalton and AJ Green, which has been becoming quite the combination so far this year. And the Bengals have also beaten 2 rookie quarterbacks so far this year in Whedon and RG3, and I think they're going to make it the trifecta. They're going to beat Tannehill, and they should beat the Dolphins.
The next game, I've always loved the Baltimore Ravens. They're a tough team. I've always loved them. I don't know why. They're playing Kansas City. Kansas City traditionally is very tough at Arrowhead Stadium, except they haven't been too tough this year. And despite being home, and despite this being a rivalry, I'm going with the Ravens.
Yeah, you got to go with the Ravens. Matt Castle, he just got lucky with that contract he signed. He got that one good year with the New England, and he's thrown 70 interceptions.
He had 3 games. That whole contract was given to him. He played 3 games for New England, right? That was all he played.
Actually, he played a whole season because remember that's when Brady went out with the Achilles heel.
Yeah, but did he pay?
It was against Kansas City too that he went out.
But did he end up playing the whole season?
No, he played the whole season and he played well. The 3 games. Are you thinking about Matt Flynn?
No, maybe.
Green Bay, because Flynn played that one game at the end of the season against Detroit, and he threw like 500 yards and 5 TD passes, and he got a big contract with Seattle from that one game. But Castle had a solid year. But he was also playing under Bill Belichick and a well-coached team. Anyway, he got a great contract out of it. He hasn't performed. He's not playing with the Patriots anymore. His QB rating is a 70, and this team has been outscored 77-44 the first 4 games. So I like the Ravens as well.
Carolina Panthers are hosting Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, in my opinion, are just I don't know what they are. They're a lucky team, but luck. They better bring more than luck. I'm picking the Panthers in an exciting game. I actually think it's going to be an exciting game for the Panthers. I'm picking them.
I think it's going to be a close game, believe it or not. I mean, I like the Seahawks defense. As a matter of fact, that's my defense in my fantasy team. They're fast. They get to the ball. They get to the player really, really quickly. But they just don't have the offense. Once if Lynch is not getting the yards on the ground, the rookie quarterback Wilson, he's in my opinion he's just too small. I mean he's 5'10", and 5'10" when Fran Tarkenton played was a different 5'10" than today. So I think it's going to be an exciting game as far as close, but Cam Newton's going to pull it out not only with his arm but with his legs as well, and I like the Panthers winning at home.
The Bears against Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, there's not much I could say. I'm just picking the Bears.
Yeah, if anything is a letdown game, this would be it, because the Bears came off that surprising win, which I have to give you credit. You picked them to beat the Dallas Cowboys last week in Dallas Stadium on Monday Night Football. This could be a letdown game, but you know what? The Jags they're not good. That's the bottom line. And I like the Bears as well. I think Cutler and Brandon Marshall, they're slowly but surely getting their chemistry back, and Brandon should have a big year with Cutler throwing to him. I like the Bears in this one.
And what could be the game of the week, really? Denver Broncos are going to be playing in New England against the Patriots. What can I say? I'm going with Manning. I just think that I like the Broncos. I hate the Patriots. I'm picking Manning.
I hate the Patriots as well, but I do like the fact that they're playing at home, and Brady has had success over this Manning as opposed to the other one that plays for the New York Giants. I think that success is going to continue. I like the Pats in this. I don't think it's going to be a real shootout, but it'll be a fairly high-scoring game, like maybe 31-27.
The next game is the 49ers against the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, they play tough, but they're not going to play tough enough. I'm picking the Niners.
49ers, fantastic defense. Even with the acquisitions they got on offense, Alex Smith is still Alex Smith, but they should do enough to beat the Bills. I like the 49ers as well, only because of their defense.
This last game for Sunday was one of the tougher ones for me to pick. New Orleans Saints are favored over the San Diego Chargers. It makes you wonder why. San Diego has been playing really good football. But with that said, I can't see New Orleans not winning a game. They're 0-4. They're going to be home. They're traditionally tough at home. I think they get in the win. I think they get a win. I think they finally get a number in the win column. I'm picking New Orleans to beat the Chargers.
That is the thinking, is that they finally get their first win, and it is at home. But you know what? I'm gonna go with the hot hand, and that's the San Diego Chargers. They're playing well. Their defense is very stingy. The Saints just don't have a running game. So I think I'm going to go with the hot hand. Like I said, I'm going to take San Diego over the Saints, even though it's in New Orleans.
That's a good pick, because for all intents and purposes, I just changed my mind. Before we went on the air today, I had San Diego. So usually when I do that, I end up making the wrong last-minute change. So good choice there. And finally, Monday Night Football, the Jets are playing against the Houston Texans. Statistically, the Jets don't have a chance. The Jets are in really bad shape mentally, physically, personnel-wise. I mean, right down the line, really, there's no chance in hell for the Jets to win. And with all that said, I'm picking the Jets, Jets. And the reason why I'm picking the Jets, Mikey, is because we talk about letdown games and we talk about stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And right now, the Jets are virtually a laughingstock in the NFL. And, with all of the hype that went on and the comments that were made by several members of the San Francisco 49ers, the Jets have used that this week as a quiet way to rally behind. They haven't yelled, they haven't screamed. There's no knocking over tables or anything like that. Just they posted a lot of these comments. I think the Jets' pride is at stake, and sometimes when pride goes, the quality of the team goes out the window. And I think you might see the Jets' best performance of the year on Monday night. I'm picking the Jets in a huge upset over Texans.
Well, I hope you're right, being a Jet fan, that comes to fruition. But you need talent to back up all these things that were said by San Francisco, and the team's going to be up. You still need talent, and I don't see the Jets as a talented team. They are definitely playing a talented team, especially in the running game, which they've proven they haven't been able to stop. 3 out of the 4 first games of the season, they've given up 185 yards or more rushing, which is ridiculous. I think Arian Foster's going to run all over them. If they need to go to the pass, Matt Schaub has been very, very, very good, very effective the first 4 games. They're out without their best offensive player and without their best defensive player. As much as I like to see an upset here, I'm going with the Texans. I can't see it. My upset of the week was the Colts over the Packers. I just can't see the Jets beating the Texans.
Well, there you have it. We got 5 teams that were different, so 5 picks. So, you could be right back in the mix. You could be right back with the, last week we said we were going to be separating the man from the boy. And, hey, maybe you get right back in here, little guy,
I think so. I think I got a shot. I mean, if I wanted to play it safe, I could take the Packers, but that's my upset is the Colts beating the Green Bay in Indianapolis. But, yeah, who knows? That's why we play the game.
Well, I got my diamond pick of the week. I have 2 of them. I've been given 2 every week, and so far I'm 4 of 4. And this week I got 2 diamond pick plays. The first one is my underdog pick of the week, the Jets Jets +8 against the Texans. And my layup pick really is the Bears -5 against the Jaguars. So those are my 2 picks for the diamond. So for all you gamblers out there, good luck with that. And finally, like we do every day, on this day in New York sports history, on this day, October 6th, Mikey, some good ones again. I try to pick out some really good ones, interesting stuff. On this day, October 6th, in 1926, Babe Ruth becomes the first player in Major League Baseball history to hit 3 home runs in the World Series with a 10-5 win over the Cardinals. To tie the series at 2 games apiece on this day in 1926. On this day in 1929, interesting, the Staten Island Stapletons play their first NFL game. It was a 12-0 win over the Dayton Triangles. Now, a little interesting note about the Stapletons, they were owned by bootleggers, and the team was one of the highest paid teams in 1929, and as you can imagine, the team folded 4 years later after Prohibition was over. So that was the end of the Staten Island Stapletons. On this day, October 6th in 1963, the Yankees are swept in 4 games of a World Series, which was the first time ever, and the Los Angeles Dodgers beat them in 1963. And finally, I found something good about the New York Mets. On this day, October 6th in 1969, Nolan Ryan comes in as a reliever and pitches 7 innings as a relief pitcher, giving up only 3 hits to help the Mets beat the Braves 7-4. And by the way, they won the National League Championship Series in this game in 1969. So there's what you had at some things that took place on October 6th. You got any things to add as we wrap it up here, brother?
Yeah, that's Staten Island Stapleton team. That game. Weren't you there?
You know, that was actually the first game I ever covered for the NFL. And you're right. You know what? I know you weren't old enough to get in, but you were trying to get into that game. But that's right. I did cover that, and I was right on the 50-yard line in that one.
Yeah, I was not old enough. There was a height requirement that I couldn't.
Well, you had the big megaphone. What do they call those things? You know, remember that's what you had, those big cone things, right?
Yeah, the megaphones.
Yeah, but anything. Anyway, well, listen, enjoy the baseball series, and I'll tell you what, I predict that you're going to be, praising me for the Jets win on Monday night. Just don't call me too late when you want to praise me, all right? We just lost Mikey just at the end, but listen, it's time to go anyway. Everybody have a great week. Enjoy NFL. See you next week. Ciao, baby.